What's up, guys? This is Mr. Beetle 890 here, and yep, we're doing it. We're doing the Welcome Back Q&A. Doing this a little bit later than I anticipated, purely because I've just been trying to find time to do it, but alas, I've had time, so we're doing the Q&A. So thank you to everyone who submitted the questions. I really appreciate it. It's a good selection of questions here, nice mixture of wrestling and other stuff. So yeah, big ups to you guys for the quality questions. So I thought, let's just get straight into it. So the first set of questions come from the Double X Prince. Thank you, mate, for asking your questions. He's got 3 here for us. So the first question he asks is, what brought me back to YouTube? Well, to be honest, it was one of those things. To simply put, I got back into watching WWE again after a long time out, just over 3 years. So yeah, that was basically the reason for it. As I said, I've been using the YouTube channel to like watch videos and stuff. So yeah, that's it really. So I got back into WWE, and with that, I was like, yeah, let's kickstart the channel again. Like I feel like it's a good way to keep me enticed on the product and keep watching. So yeah, that's basically the main reason. And then his second question is, should Cody join WWE? Well, firstly, it looks like from when he asked that question about just over 10 days ago, the reports are that he has. And you know what? It'll be interesting to see how Vince deals with him and how they actually use him, because it could be a big opportunity for the WWE to like attract, people in places like AEW where, if they can use Cody well, it might entice them to be like, oh, well, my contract's running out. I might, WWE actually starting to utilize outside talent pretty well, and they have done in the past. It's not like they completely get it wrong every time. Like look at AJ Styles, for example, but. You could get some of the AEW people over, and maybe some returns as well. Who knows? From people who've joined AEW from WWE, etc., etc. So I think it's a big opportunity for them to get it right with Cody as well, and just have a decent place on the card. It'd be interesting to see what they do with him. Hopefully, they kind of have him in a hot feud from the start. I'm looking forward to it, honestly, to see what they do. His final question is: do you see Gable Steveson being the face of WWE? So, as I said, I looked into Gable Steveson. So he's like a American wrestler, like freestyle wrestler. And he signed with WWE not too long ago, supposedly on the Raw brand. He's certainly got the look for it and the build, and he's got the background. So, as I said, I don't know too much about him. I don't know much about his, his mic work and his character and that sort of thing. I guess no one really knows too much about what they're going to do with his character yet. But if he's got the tools and he's got the look, he passes the eye test for sure. If he has like a sort of charisma about him and can get over as a heel or face, I think why not? He has the look. If he can match that with with other things, then yeah, I definitely think so. I think that would be a Definitely, I think he could definitely do. They could definitely do it. There's a lot of wrestlers I think they could do it with. It's just whether they actually commit to it or not is kind of like the real question. Will they do it? I think they. As I said, I think they can. So thank you, Double X Prince, for your questions. We'll move next on to Prince of Strong Style 9 V2. So his questions are. His first question is: have you thought about doing some non-wrestling videos like you did on your second channel? Maybe a review of No Time to Die, or the Beatles doc that was released recently, or are you just sticking to WWE reviews for now? So on YouTube, no. But what I will say, and I'll put it in the link in the description of the video. So sort of since last summer, I came up with this idea with this guy that I met through doing my dissertation about Paul McCartney. So we ended up starting a Beatles-related podcast called Fans Across the Water. So it's available on like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, loads of other streaming platforms like Stitcher, that kind of thing. So that's kind of some non-related content I'm doing in my spare time. I have a lot of fun doing that. So the way the podcast kind of works is we go through the career of the Beatles, Beatle by Beatles. So we've recorded all the John Lennon stuff. We've got the first 4 Beatles periods out, so the early 2 middle periods and the end. And we've started his solo career. That episode's come out fairly recently. So yeah, that's something if you want to check out. I'd highly recommend, because it's me, obviously. So yeah, that's kind of the main thing I'm doing. And as I said, for a job at the minute, I'm kind of writing pieces about Newcastle United for this Newcastle United related website. So that's kind of what I do for a job at the minute, like football writing and stuff like that. So that's another thing that I also do. So those are the kind of things that I do. So then, who have been some of your favorite wrestlers in the 3 years you stepped away from YouTube to finish school? So I said I wasn't keeping too much tabs on the. I was kind of look at the product here and there. I wouldn't really watch anything, but I'd like keep up with people. A lot of you guys who are making videos like the reviews and stuff. It was a nice way to kind of just keep an eye on what was going on. So the wrestlers who have stood out to me since kind of watching and coming back, I really like Bianca Belair. I think she's a really good talent. Like I really dig her. She's definitely one of my favorites. I kind of, from what I've seen of like the stuff that Seth Rollins has done over the past 3 years. I mean, I've always liked Seth Rollins, but I know he had that sort of his babyface run kind of crashed and burned with that match with the Fiend at Hell in the Cell. Again, I haven't seen the match, but I know what happened, and awful. But it seems like his heel run since then has been actually quite entertaining. It seems like he's had some kind of good gimmicks to sink his teeth into, like the Messiah of Monday Night Raw, and like having like this kind of god complex. I quite dig it. I like how he's just this complete nutter, deranged, insane kind of thing. I really dig it. I think Seth Rollins is someone who he's looking pretty good this time. Pretty good this time. I'm interested to see, especially kind of 2020. I like it. It's I'm a sucker for those kind of wacky, insane, crazy characters. And Seth Rollins is he's a very talented guy. Like he's got all the tools. So Seth Rollins is another one. I'm trying to think as well off the top of my head in terms of like other newer people. I can't necessarily say. I mean, just kind of coming back into it, I'm continuously blown away by AJ Styles and just how great he is, to be honest, because he's always someone that just continues to put on phenomenal matches, pardon the pun, and yeah, he's great. Aside from that, again, I'm still kind of getting to grips with a lot of the other people. Oh, actually, another one I've just remembered. Someone that I really like is Riddle. It's kind of one of those gimmicks where it works because that's the type of person he is. He's a massive stoner. And he works with it so well, and I really like him. He's got a cool style as well, like with the hard hits, especially like his kicks and stuff, like using his MMA background. So Riddle's another one I really like, and I really like the RK Bro thing with Randy Orton. It's really nice. It's really cool, and I hope it'll be sad when they break up eventually, but yeah, Riddle's another one. Actually, now that I think about it, I do actually really like Riddle. So yeah, next question of his is, what's been your personal experience of the COVID-19 pandemic? At times pretty long. I mean, it was good in the sense of like I could kind of just do nothing, didn't have to feel guilty about it. Just doing, sinking my teeth into stuff. Getting into like listening to loads of music. Like me and one of my mates were doing a thing where we like sending each other like an album a day, which was really cool. That really broadened my horizon for like music. That was really good. I actually did. So it'd be last August last year. I actually had COVID. I had one jab by that point. I didn't feel too bad really. It was mainly I just lost taste and smell, and I had a bit of a cough. But aside from that, it wasn't too bad. Again, it was just just kind of chilled in my room for like 10 days. It actually was all right. I actually had a pretty good time, all things considered. So those are kind of the main things. As well, online learning was another thing that was not great, but there's not really a good way to be doing online learning. It's quite difficult. But fortunately for me, I was in like my last year of uni, so I kind of knew what I needed to do. So I feel like if you're in like, especially first year, it must have been quite tough. New environment, and you're in the middle of a pandemic. So those are kind of the main things that I experienced. So he says, his next question: I've been feeling bored and mentally stuck recently. Are there some books, movies, and music you'd recommend checking out? I could go on for days here, so I'll try and condense this into just a few things here and there. Firstly, I relate to the being bored and mentally stuck sometimes. I feel like that's a thing that a lot of us can empathise with. It's something that we all go through as humans, right? So, you're definitely not alone there, mate. Don't you worry about that. So in terms of like books, I'm not a huge reader, I'll be honest. I mean, I've been sinking my teeth a little bit into the Paul McCartney, the lyrics book that I got for Christmas. It's just like a song lyric book of Beatles and solo Paul McCartney stuff. That's really cool. If you're into the Beatles and that kind of thing, I'd recommend anyone to check that out. In terms of films, I saw The Batman very recently. That's a very good film. If you've not seen that, but I feel like a lot of people have seen it, do check it out. That's very good. In terms of other films, that's kind of the main one that sticks with me at the minute in terms of sort of quality films. That's off the top of my head anyway. Music, I could go on for ages, but I'll try and break down some artists that I really like, that I've kind of discovered more recently. Michael Kiwanuka, he's really, really good. His output is so great. He's got about 3 albums. So he's got, I think it's Home Again, I think it's the name of the debut album, I think. But that's like the big track off that album anyway. Then you've got Love and Hate, which is a brilliant album. And then Kiwanuka, Kiwanuka most recent album, that's a phenomenal album. That's one of my all-time favourite albums. I'd highly recommend, of those 3 albums, Kiwanuka. But check out Michael Kiwanuka, man. He's class. Lianne La Havas is another one. She's kind of like more like indie soul type stuff. She's really good. Again, she's got about 3 albums out. Her most recent album, Lianne La Havas, and her second album, Blood, especially, are very good. I'm seeing her live in May, actually. I'm really looking forward to that. Because she's awesome, man. She's a really good singer. I've been really kind of delving into a bit more soul as well. I'm trying to think of other kind of artists as well that I've kind of really... there's a band called The Rills who I quite like. Not got many songs, but they're from like Lincolnshire and here in the UK. Yeah, they're good. I definitely would recommend them. Yeah, in terms of TV shows, I'll say, you know what? I've delved into a little bit into this show. Gilmore Girls is actually a pretty good show. I think it's pretty witty. Some good characters. You get emotionally invested in the plot. That's a show I'd recommend. Yeah, as well. Also, in terms of music, The Who, they're another band that I've kind of really delved into a lot more. Who's Next is like an iconic classic album. They've got some great stuff. I'd say check out The Who as well. So that's where I'll leave that for there, because I feel like I could go on for hours with that kind of question. So I'll leave it there, and you can check those out and thank me later. And then his final question is, what are some of your goals you're looking to achieve in the future? To be honest, man, it's just kind of finding a way to live my life by doing things that I really enjoy. So, for example, like the job that I'm doing at the minute, I'm sort of doing like football writing. So that's kind of one thing I would stay into. Soccer if you're American, but I'm calling it football, so it's football. Yeah, so that kind of thing. Obviously, I'd love the podcast that I do, and just podcasting in general. That's something that'd be a dream to do that full time. That'd be amazing. I'd love to do that. So I guess those are kind of the main things. Just kind of have jobs where I can really kind of demonstrate my passions. You know, if I found a job related to talk about WWE, because then they'll give me incentive to watch it even more. Because I'm not watching Raw, SmackDown every week. I dip in here and there, but I'm more on top of it than I was. So yeah, that's kind of it really, I guess, in terms of like goals. It's just kind of, you know, finding occupations that I can just in relation to stuff that I love. I think that's the kind of goal I want to do. So yeah, thank you so much, mate, for your questions. Great selection as always. So next we've got Diesel 101. I'll start again. Diesel 101 Raw. Great to hear from this guy again. I remember I came across. I was sort of looking back through some people's channels. And I found a video where he talks about the UK YWC, and he basically was saying like how he missed me. So I appreciate that. That meant a lot. So that was cool. So I thought I'd leave a comment on the video letting him know that I was back, and he left the question, which is really cool. So, and that kind of ties in nicely with this first question: is what do you think of the UK YWC? Now, obviously, I'm a bit biased, but I really like the UK YWC for the most part. Like, people are just a lot more like chill and mellow. We're kind of like myself. You know, and I feel like they're just a lot more. They just seem like cool guys. Like a lot of the people on the UK YWC, like I'd happily go for a pint with. So yeah, especially people like Lundrick, obviously. Like Lundrick's top Donny. Like, I love Lundrick, man. He's a cool guy. Grinds as well. Like I rate his work ethic and like getting the videos out and just like constantly coming up with new video ideas. Like the subscriber pick thing, I think is a really like good idea in terms of like getting people involved in the channel, helping him grow. Like getting him onto like matches he may have not seen for a while or like new matches. It's a really cool idea. I really like Lundrick, man. He's him especially, and like What Culture. I mean, some of the list videos are a bit like how many lists are they going to make, but at the same time they seem like cool guys. Like they make some good videos. I like them. In comparison to some of the and again there are plenty of good Americans on the YWC. Like a lot of my followers are American or Canadian, and like they're all calm. Like I feel like the people who follow me are like, and maybe I would say this, but they're all top people. But you get some kind of Americans on the YWC who are just a bit cringe, and like people who like there's nothing wrong with getting passionate. I'm a passionate guy myself, but and you get people like shouting at the camera, like unironically, like at the end of the day, it's wrestling, man. Like, chill out. Like, it's not that deep. like, I'm not going to mention any names, but you can kind of figure out who. And again, it's kind of entertaining its own way because it's just so ridiculous, but it's like, man, get a grip. So that's kind of my thoughts is UK YWC, in my opinion, is superior. But that's just my opinion, and don't take it personally. So the second question is, are you excited for Edge versus AJ Styles? Oh, you betcha, mate. You betcha. It's a great time for me to get back into it so I can actually... Because that was kind of a match I was worried that maybe would have done whilst I was away. Because there's a lot of things that like WWE did whilst I was away that actually I would have loved. Like that I loved, like Edge coming back, winning the Rumble. Bayley turning heel. That's something that I thought was like, oh, that's really cool. Drew McIntyre's rise again. I'm a big Drew McIntyre guy. I missed that as well. A lot of other things as well that I would have dug as well, and kind of it's a shame I missed. But Edge AJ Styles, I'm glad that I can actually see that, and it's going to be great. It's one of those. I'm really not bothered on who wins, who loses. Edge turning heels, it's amazing. It's been a long time coming. I mean, he kind of showed his heel tendencies a little bit, around the time of last year's WrestleMania, but like this time around, he's in full-fledged heel mode, and it's amazing. Like Edge is just that next level when he's heel. Like, as you know, love Edge, unreal. So his third question is, now that AEW officially has Ring of Honor, do you see them having a Ring of Honor tribute pay-per-view the way WWE did with ECW? Yeah, I could definitely see that. And in many ways, what they might do is, like you said, have the tribute show, and they might even make Ring of Honor like a separate brand type thing. You can get, you can have, they've got people like, say, CM Punk and Bryan Danielson, and I could see them maybe trying to get someone like Samoa Joe. I don't know if he's signed. I know he's going to the Hall of Fame, right? So they could potentially build like a Ring of Honor brand and base some of it on, Ring of Honor veterans, stuff like that. Who knows? I could see them definitely doing a tribute pay-per-view would definitely be a good idea. I could definitely see them going beyond that and like with ECW making it into like a brand. Hopefully it's better than the WWE ECW brand because that got pretty bad pretty quick. So his next question is your thoughts on Sting still wrestling. Again, I haven't seen much of... Again, I don't watch AEW. I kind of see what's going on here and there. I've seen, Sting did that insane dive recently, which is pretty mad, to be fair. Like, fair play to him for doing that. See, I don't really have much of a problem with it. As long as he's not killing himself and, like, potentially taking life... I mean, who knows at this point, but... I don't have a problem with it. I don't know whether he actually... if he sucks or in the rings now or whatever, but I don't have a problem with it as long as it's, as long as it's not kind of you're thinking like, oh, this dude's past it. But I don't know too much beyond that, so apologies. And his next question is, at this point, do you think is it fair to say that Nick Khan is going to own WWE when Vince passes? Yeah, it looks like it. So from looking into it, he's got quite a prominent role now in WWE. Triple H is kind of taking a step back. So for a long time, people were thinking, oh, Triple H going to take the baton when Vince dies or hands over the passes on the company to someone, but he's in quite a prevalent position, so it seems like maybe Nick Khan is now the guy who's going to take the reins. Again, I don't know too much about him, but it's definitely a possibility. So thank you so much, Diesel, for your questions, man. Appreciate it. Next set of questions come from Radical Velocity. So his first question is, have you seen No Time to Die yet? If so, is it worth a watch? Yes, it is. I won't go too much into spoilers, because, not everyone will have seen it, but, I'll try and keep it as vague as possible, but still give my opinion on it. It's a good film. As I said, Spectre is one of those films, each time I watched it, I felt like it got worse. And I feel like they kind of took... Because I was worried with No Time to Die that Spectre kind of backed it into a corner and it was going to be like a pretty underwhelming film. But no, it's actually a very strong outing. I think Skyfall and Casino Royale are better Craig films. No Time to Die is definitely a strong entry, though. There's a lot of cool stuff. As I said, the actual villain, Rami Malek, like he acts well as the villain, but his kind of motives and stuff is definitely questionable. That's definitely one of the big weak points of the film. That's kind of the criticism I've seen of the film, and that's fair. I'm not saying that he's perfect, but there's a lot of other good stuff around that film. It's definitely worth a watch. I think it's a really good film. And so the ending has people tied. Again, I won't go into details, but I was fine with it. And I think it's worth a watch, for me personally. His second question is, what is your overall opinions on AEW so far? Again, I don't know. I haven't delved too much into AEW. So I don't think it's fair for me to comment really, but it seems like it's good. What I will say is it's good to have, I always think competition is good because for so long it seems like WWE have had not really much proper competition. I know, obviously, TNA Impact Wrestling around for a while, but it seems like AEW are actually building a lot of momentum, and actually, they're getting a lot of big guys, and building up some people as well. So I think it'd be good for the business, and hopefully WWE can pull their finger out and actually be like, oh shit, we've got some big competition here. We need to kind of up our game a bit. So that's what I'll kind of say about AEW. And then to answer your next question about favorite AEW wrestler, I couldn't really tell you. As I said, obviously there's the names that I'm familiar with from WWE. Your CM Punks, your Bryan Danielsons, Jericho, people like that. But in terms of the other guys, I mean, as I said, someone like MGF, whenever I've seen him, like stuff of him, like, online and stuff, like, he very much reminds me of The Miz in a good way, like his mic work and his charisma. Like, he's someone that I could see being a big star for sure. And then his next question is, what has been your favourite match that you watched during your hiatus from YouTube? So honestly, most of the wrestling I've consumed has been since I've come back. So in terms of the matches I've watched, bit of a heads up for the next couple of reviews. Got the last 2 WrestleMania reviews coming out. I really enjoyed both main events from 37. So Bianca Belair versus Sasha and Roman Reigns versus Edge versus Daniel Bryan. Both classic matches. So yeah, those reviews will be coming out in the coming week. So look out for those. You'll get my star ratings on those. But I think I've kind of given away what the minimum rating of it will be. But yeah, I would say those 2 matches really blew me away. Like, those are some really good matches. So I'll say those 2. Thank you so much for your questions, man. I appreciate it. So yeah, now we're on to the next set of questions, which comes from Art Carter's Wrestling Library. So he kicks off firstly by saying, welcome back, brother. Missed you from the YWC. Here's my questions for you. Thank you so much, man. Likewise, man. I've missed talking to you guys. And you in particular, Art, you've always been very good to me, and I really appreciate it. So, cheers. I mean, that means a lot. So his first question is, what's your thoughts on NXT 2.0, and who do you see becoming a big star for years to come? I haven't delved too much into NXT. Again, I know roughly what's going on. And in terms of, like, big stars, you know what, especially over the years, even before 2.0, it's so hard now with NXT to even know who's going to make it big, because you have your predictions before going in. I remember, like, beforehand, like, take someone like Robert Roode, Bobby Roode, whatever you want to call him. Like, this guy was presented NXT as such a winner. Kick-ass theme song, kick-ass entrance, kick-ass, like, gear, kick-ass, like, just all-round everything, right? And was a big star, and I was like, this guy is going to be... I thought he was going to be, like, built very well on the main roster. Like, he has the tools, and just never did it. That's a big example I can think of. So honestly, with NXT guys, I don't even want to know, and I don't even want to be like think about who's gonna be the big guy, because you never know now, because it seems like Keith Lee was another one. Again, I didn't watch too much of him as at the time, but like I could see the potential that he had just from what I saw of him. I was like, this guy, again, could be has the tools. Just didn't work for him. Don't know how, but it didn't. So. Yeah, I honestly couldn't tell, because I don't know them that well, but also I feel like I'm doomed if I say, like, this guy's going to be a big star, because then he'll probably end up getting hardly used and leaves for AEW in a few months. So, who knows. Thoughts on the rise and heel turn of Will Ospreay while you're away from YouTube? Don't know too much about Will Ospreay, if I'm being honest, man, but so I can't really comment, unfortunately. I'm sorry about that. So question 3, what kept you occupied during the global illness and subsequent lockdowns? Social media, Netflix, Disney Plus. Those are the big things. Your music as well, as I mentioned earlier. Like, I'm a big vinyl record collector, so just like getting albums and stuff, singles, spinning them on the turntable, just discovering new music, checking out stuff that I'd not seen before in terms of, like, especially like TV shows and stuff like that. That's kind of the main thing. TikTok was a thing that I really got into over the first lockdown. Like, just like I know it's associated with being like a kids app, but it's depending on what kind of stuff you watch. Like, it's just you get some mixture of like hilarious, cringe, awful. Like it's kind of really like YouTube in a sense, and it's a highly addictive app, but it's good. And it kind of what got me back into wrestling a little bit, because I ended up kind of getting onto wrestling TikTok a little bit and just seeing clips, moments, matches, stuff like that. So and in many ways, TikTok's a big reason as to why I kind of watched. Kind of why I got back into watching WWE. So you can kind of thank TikTok for that in many ways. Looking back, what's the one thing you missed about stepping away from YouTube? You know what, actually, and this sounds a bit cringy saying this, but like just kind of the community I'd built on here. Like, again, speaking to a lot of people I got to know a lot of people here very well. And a lot of you guys have stuck around, and like I said, we're doing the Q&A right now, but there's some people on here who's like I haven't heard from, and I don't even know what they're doing now. Like some people I haven't heard from in a while. So if they're still about, interact, I'm more than happy to. But again, maybe they're not. But who knows? So that's kind of the main thing as well. That was kind of one of the main things I missed about this, that kind of thing. And just talking to people about stuff. That was always cool. Always cool to get people's like just takes on stuff. I always really enjoyed it. So that's kind of the big thing I missed, I suppose, if I was being honest. Next, so thank you, Art. I really appreciate those questions. Next questions are from Lundrick. Speak of the devil, talk about him earlier. So his first question is thoughts on Edge's comeback run so far. I feel like you're kind of preaching to the choir here. I've really enjoyed it. As I said, he's had some kick-ass matches from the ones I've seen thus far, and he's just great. He's just great. Like he sinks his teeth into anything, and like he's so great on the mic, and he's like just. And I like as well with him, like as a kind of a part timer as well. I think he's been one of the examples like the better comeback like runs in terms of like part timers where like. He'll win matches, but he'll put people over and have kick-ass matches and feuds. Like, it's hard to really go wrong. He's just a great talent to have. I would have liked to have seen him maybe win the Universal title, but wasn't meant to be. And you know what? Maybe he won't get a world title run again. And in some ways, I'd be disappointed, but I can understand as well because WWE do need to build some more big-time stars because they're severely lacking at the minute. So his next question is thoughts on Newcastle takeover and finally end of Mike Ashley's era and renewed hope. So that's the first part of the question. Yeah, so like obviously I'm gassed about that. Obviously I know with the current ownership there's controversies around that. I know that for certain. And I mean it's the same with a lot of other clubs who are run by corrupt millionaires. So I'm more just happy in the sense that Mike Ashley is gone because he just had a stranglehold on our club for so long and was just absolutely horrendous in terms of like cutting corners and like just investment in the club. Just shocking. And the new owners are doing wonders so far, and we've managed to attract some really good players. And if we stay up, which I think we will, I think we've built up enough of a gap. Maybe like 1 or 2 more wins, and I think we'll be safe. And we can hopefully bring in some big players, and also just invest in the youth academy as well. Our youth academy is awful, so if we can bring up some players through the ranks, we've got some decent talent coming through the ranks at the minute. So and they're starting to look fairly decent on their loan spells. So if we can do that, that'd be cool. So then it says, also pick 5 or 4 realistic signings for the summer. And so nothing daft like Mbappe or Neymar. Yeah, that's fair. So I was thinking that. First one I'll say off the bat is sign Matt Targett permanently. He's been really consistent for us. Definitely wouldn't want to get him in. Who else? Sven Botman. We were linked with him in January. I know it looks like he might be going to AC Milan this summer, but if we can get him in as another defender, that would be great. Calvin Phillips. If Leeds go down... Definitely, again, there'll be loads of clubs after him, but again, we do have the financial backing to do that, to attract some quality players. So Calvin Phillips would be one. I'll say Rafinha as well. Similar thing. If Leeds get relegated, like we could try and get him in as well. That would be pretty good. Lingard would be another one. We were linked with him in January, getting him on loan, but United decided just to waste his time and keep him in the squad until the end of the season. Here's what it is, but again, we'll be battling out with West Ham for him. So those would be some signings that I'd like to see, and I think they're fairly realistic. Obviously, they're a bit ambitious, but we have the money to do so. And we, especially if we're in the Premier League next season, we can compete with the big boys in terms of like financial spend, because we have the money. His third question is thoughts on England going so close in Euro 2020. Sorry, in Euro 2020, can we do it in Qatar? Yeah, the loss was heartbreaking in the final against Italy. It was just, I did get a little bit emotional, I can't lie. So yeah, it was great though just to see England win games. I think we can do very well in Qatar again. Whether we'll win it or not, it's hard to say. But I think we can do very well once again. It seems like even though we don't play the most attractive football, Southgate clearly knows his team very well. And we don't play, as I said, we don't play the most exciting stuff, but we use our players very well. And even though he picks squads and starting 11s that make you scratch your head, more often than not, it works. So he does deserve credit for that. And I know I'm always kind of doubting his choices a lot of the time, but it's someone who's, played at the highest level with England, Euro semi-final. He knows what he's doing, to be fair to him. I do really like Gareth Southgate as a manager. Like, he's, again, not the most exciting, but as a bloke, he's a quality bloke. And he knows what he's doing. He's done very well with England. Way better than I expected. His fourth question is, when you started watching wrestling again, what was the biggest difference you saw in the product, good or bad? One good thing actually is the presentation, like some like the graphics and like the shots and the cinematography. I guess to say of WWE. I really like that in that sense. Like that, it looks really nice, like and crisp. So from a production standpoint, it does look a lot better. I guess just kind of like the lack of, for the most part, really new, built up top guys. There's really just not that many. Still, they're still kind of relying on the same people. Like, you've had people like Drew McIntyre, for example, break through more so, but God, there's really not been that many, and it just shows that they struggle to create new stars. So that's definitely a bad thing. So I guess those are kind of the main two things that stand out at the top of my mind at the minute. So his final question is, would you agree the In-Betweeners couldn't work today in a PC world where we now live in the jokes where we now live in the jokes wouldn't work because too many people would get offended. Also, I think the last generation of young lads having that kind of banter with each other, young kids don't take the piss out of each other like they did then. Your first point of the In-Betweeners, I definitely think that's true. I think, as I said, it's not like it's an outright offensive show, but I feel like, you know, some of the humour, some people would interpret it. They wouldn't interpret it in the way of as it should be, like that it's about, you know, 4 teenage lads in sick form, and they would, you know, say it promotes, you know, like toxic behavior and that sort of thing, but it's more just kind of about like what being a teenager is like and like the things that they say, because it's a very relatable show in that aspect. I feel like some people would misinterpret the humor nowadays if it came out like, because with comedy I feel like nowadays, at least from what I've seen, like sometimes people don't take the context of it, because there are some shows where like they haven't aged well and you're like, yeah, okay, that's just like pretty offensive and it's pretty bad. But there's other ones where it's like, actually it still works, and they don't, sometimes the joke is actually not necessarily saying, oh, this offensive thing is funny. It's more to do with like the person saying it, that kind of thing. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's sometimes the humor, it's about the context. Think about kids having like banter with each other, that kind of banter. I think it's still around. Again, I don't really know. It's hard to really gauge, again, because both you and me aren't like teenagers now. I think from what I gather, I think they're still like that. You know, when you see like viral videos of like kids doing stupid shit at school, like on Twitter, say, or TikTok, for example, like it's still there. It's still definitely there. I think it's because maybe we're just so distant from that, what teenagers are like, you know, back like nowadays. So it's hard to really tell. But it's still definitely there. It's just a different kind of banter. You know, things change and things evolve. So like, I still think it's there. There's still that brutal sense of humor, I think, that's never really going to go away. So that's kind of my take on it. So thank you, mate, for your questions. Now, I'm on to the final set of questions, which was from a friend of mine, a personal friend of mine. So it's strange, he posted the comments on my YouTube, but they didn't show up. But fortunately, he did send me the screenshot questions. So I will get those up for you. So from my mate Ben Corbell, so his first question is, should WWE have equal rights to pay women and men the same? Again, I don't know too much about the wage structure of WWE. I definitely think there should be, in terms of the high profile women's main eventers, obviously they're definitely generating more money, so they definitely should be getting paid close to what the men are, especially like the top names. And I think it's kind of dependent on, you know, shows and like who's main eventing and that kind of thing. So it's kind of a complex question in that sense, but I think in terms of, you know, for example, the women's payouts for like a WrestleMania main event, should say, they should be the same as the men, like same payment, if that makes sense. That's kind of what I think on that. The second question have made me laugh. And just I said like, you know, question within reason, but I know Ben personally, and this is just quite a funny question. So, you know, nothing wrong with a bit of humour in these Q&As. I'm all for it. So his question is, who has the juiciest ass in WWE? And he's put in brackets, except Titus O'Neil. I mean, I don't know why he's gone for Titus O'Neil, but there's only really one answer. There's only really one answer here. And, you know, his signature move was in relation to his big, juicy ass. Rikishi. Obviously. You know, that stink face, man, it was deadly. And because he had such a juicy ass. And that's why the crowd loved it. They loved seeing him rub his big, juicy ass in people's faces. So, yeah, it's Rikishi. And his final question, who do you think is the coolest WWE wrestler? There's definitely a few contenders here. Razor Ramon comes to mind. Timeless, cool, badass gimmick. Edge. You know, I think Edge is dead cool. Demon Finn Balor is one that comes to mind for me, especially like the NXT Finn Balor. That was, to me, fucking, especially the entrance, absolutely badass. American Badass Undertaker was cool. He's like badass, bully, cool kind of guy. I like the American Badass. I think it gets a bit too much stick sometimes. It's not as good as, you know, the Dead Man gimmick, but it showed that Undertaker could trash talk, and he is an American Badass. So I'll say him as well. I'm trying to think in terms of other like cool wrestlers. Oh, that's a shame, because I was thinking about this earlier, and who else came to mind for me? You know, The Rock, Stone Cold. Are definitely, they're definitely ones. They're like, you know, badass. So yeah, those are the ones I'd say, like the ones that come to mind for me for being like the coolest anyway. So yeah, thanks guys for your questions. Really appreciate it. Thank you to all of those who asked. You know, feel free to like the video, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. And I will see you guys very soon.